Well, hello again. Starting to cloud up. We're going to get some rain here pretty soon. And I'm kind of tired of working in the yard. I've been weed eating and cutting grass and just you name it. You name it. I'm just worn out on that for a while. And wifey's in rare form, so why not come out and work on the old Thunderbird? Yeah, that's the way I look at it. It's more fun doing that. Okay, last time I said what we were going to do was pull each of the spark plugs and squirt some of that mystery Marvel mystery oil down in there, which I have done. Okay, all 8 cylinders have been coated with the mystery oil. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the spark plug. I cleaned spark plugs with a brush. I just used an old paintbrush I had with lacquer thinner and scrubbed the tips up pretty nice. They look a whole lot better than they did. They were all black with soot, but these plugs are in very, very good condition. Very good shape. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and screw each one of them in by hand all the way back. I'm not going to tighten them up. Just screw them down, you know, until they finally get snug by hand. That's it. Now, before we start our engine, you know, of course, we're going to need new plug wires. A lot of you noticed that the mouse had chewed on those. I didn't worry about it. We'll worry about that when the time comes. But anyway, we're going to need new plug wires, new coil wire. We may even need new coil. I don't know. I'm going to fix all these wires. It may just be bad connections. We're going to look at everything. And before we crank the engine up, we're going to remove the spark plugs again. And we're going to crank the engine over with no spark plugs in any of the holes. We're going to blow out that excess mystery oil. If we don't do that, and we just go ahead and tighten up the spark plugs and fire this engine up or try to start it, that oil in the cylinder could be, I don't know how much I squirted in each one. You know, I tried to get the same amount, but you never know. You know, you can't, I'm not down there looking. If you don't get that oil out of there, that excess oil out of there, and you put those spark plugs in and you try to start that engine, you could blow a head gasket. Too much crap in the cylinder, the engine can't handle it. It explodes down in there when the gas comes in. It might not, it's just not going to handle it, so it's going to blow it through the head gasket. Wipe out your gasket, and guess what? It's time to pull the heads and the intake manifold and all this crap you don't want to have to mess with. So we will be blowing out the excess oil. And once we get the plugs back in, get the plug wires all hooked up and everything, well, actually probably before we hook up the plug wires, we'll go ahead and give it a nice wash and wash off all the excess oil that may have blown out of the hole. Because I'm going to let the starter do it, you know, bloop, 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 and it'll just blow that oil out. All right, let's take a look at spark plugs for those of you who don't know much about spark plugs. Every spark plug, let me zoom in here a little bit. Every spark plug has a gap. See that gap right there? Let me see. Let me put it on the bench here where we can see it a little better. Okay, every spark plug has a gap. See that gap right there between these 2 points? That's called a spark gap. And every plug has to be set at the requirement by the manufacturer of how, you know, how far apart those two need to be. Now this is a Autolite 45, and it goes into a 390 engine, which is what we have. It requires 35 thousandths of a gap, 35 thousandths. And this is called a feeler gauge for those of you who have never seen one. This has both flat blades. They're just like a knife almost, a whole pile of flat blades. And on each blade it says how thick it is in thousandths and in millimeters. Now, years ago we never had millimeters, it was always thousandths. And let's see if I can show you here. Yeah, there's one right there, see? This one on top says it is a, let me see, what is that? I want you to see what it is for those of you who've never seen. Okay. It is 0.406 millimeters and 16 thousandths of an inch. That's how thick this one blade is right here. Okay, and it goes all the way down. There's 0.152 millimeters, 0.006 thousandths, 8 thousandths. You know, you get yourself a good feeler gauge if you ever have to get one. Now, not only does it have the flat blade feeler gauges, but it also has the wire loop. And the wire loop you can use for your spark plugs, setting the gap. Now I said 35 thousandths is what I need. Now on one side of the wire loop, you'll see right there is 45, 40, 35. This wire loop right here is 35 thousandths of an inch thick. And on the back, it's got it in millimeters again. Okay, there's your millimeter sizes. And this little deal right here is used to bend. It's used to bend that little thing at the bottom. You bend it open or closed with that little tool right here. And you'll notice that it's big on one side and smaller on the other. You just put that baby, you just hook that sucker right down there. If you need to open it up, you take this thing and you put it across that, put it in there. Try and do this one hand, it's kind of rough, but we'll make it. You just take that little tool that they give you and you put it across that thing right there, and then you can use it to bend it this way or bend it that way. Okay, now years ago, the old mechanics, you know, and I'm sure they still do it today, if they found that the gap was bigger than what they needed, they would just like tap it on the table a couple of times until it would bend this thing right here until the gap closed to what they need. So we can use either in this case we can use either the loop or we can use the flat blades. Now if we use the flat blades, if I take a 10 thousandths, I think this one only goes up to 25 thousandths. It's as thick as it goes. But it's no problem because all we have to do is slip out a 10 thousandths, put them together, and we've got our 35 thousandths, okay? And the loop, of course, is right here. Well, somebody might say, well, why do we need both sets? Well, because you can't always get this little thing down in here where you need to get it. So these babies, you know, this thing here would not work for everything, but these here will. They'll slide down into long places you need to get to, okay? So let me set this thing up for 35 thousandths. And we'll see what kind of gap we have in this spark plug. This is for all of our newbies, guys. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that don't even know how to set a spark plug gap. All right, like I said, the thickest blade I have on this is 25 thousandths, 0.025. But if you take a 0.010 and you bring it out just like a knife blade and you squeeze the two together like that, you now have the 35 thousandths you need. And we can use it to check the gap right here. Perfect. Fits exactly perfect. It won't move at all, in and out, exactly the way it's supposed to be. That's one way of doing it. Now let's try the other, let's try the loop wire gauge. Alright, here's our 35 thousandths as I showed you earlier, and I went ahead and put the spark plug in the socket to help us out. We'll just go ahead and slip that baby down in there. Where is it? Okay, there we go. Right down in there like it's supposed to. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you get the idea, you know. If you're not sure, you know, just keep playing with it. You'll get it, you know. This is not rocket science kind of stuff. There it is. Perfect. See how it slipped right down in there? Perfect. Okay, 35 thousandths. Now I'm going to check all the rest to make sure there's 35 thousandths before I screw them back in the block, back in the engine. And this is kind of neat, huh? Now keep in mind, if the gap would have been too far open, I would have used that little tool right here to bend this thing and close it. Or if it was too close, I would have bent it back up until I got the gap I want. You know, I remember when I first started doing the spark plugs and things like that, I'd go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, making sure it was just perfect, just perfect. And after a while, you get pretty good at it to where you can only, you know, you can do it once or twice and you're done. But when you first start out, you know, you're just not sure of anything. All right, let me go ahead and screw these all back in the engine. Well, all the plugs are back in, hand tight, like I said. You know, it's times like this when I have to do that sort of thing. Reach down in there where you can't get to the very, very last plug. It's just a bear. I don't know why it is. It's times like that I wish I had an old flathead V8 to work on. I am happy to report that we have received our weather stripping that goes around the trunk lid. It's awfully breezy out here today, so I don't know how long this video will be. I think what I'm going to do is probably work on this tomorrow, but in the morning when the wind has stopped. But tonight, we'll go ahead and vacuum all the way around here where that weather stripping is going to go. We'll vacuum it all the way around, clean it up, and we'll take some alcohol with this rag, and then I'll wipe it out nice and clean. And then tomorrow I'll show you how to put it in. Well, it's the next day, and the wind has died down a little bit, but it's pretty cool out here. It's early in the morning, but I've got to get this done because the wifey wants to go do something this afternoon. So at least I'll get started on it. The primary thing I want to show you about installing a trunk gasket is you have to pay attention to the shape of the gasket. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Now, see the way this gasket looks right here. I don't know if it may be a little bit difficult because of the sun blaring down, but let me see if I can do a little close up here. Hang on. Alright. See that lip right there by my thumb? Come on, camera, focus. Probably won't see it very well. Yeah, there we go. See that little part right there? That little part right there plays a major role in how this gasket goes, down in the trunk. Now, most people who don't really pay much attention to putting a gasket like this in, that little lip that's sticking up there doesn't mean much to them. So what they'll do is they'll just take that baby and just jam it all down in there like that. So the gasket is flat against the metal right here. This lip is flat against the metal, and they'll do it like that. Okay? Well, that's not the way to do it, guys. When you're done with your gasket, that lip, that little lip I was telling you about, right? Let me see if I can point it out with the pencil right there. That little lip right there has to sit on top of the metal. And what that does is enable this part of the gasket to stick up. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now, the back part does go in underneath this lip. Alright, I hope you can see it, but that little lip right there, right where that pencil point is, has to sit on top of the metal. The reason being is when you get your gasket glued in, you want this part to stick up in the air. Okay? So when the trunk closes, it goes down. See it? It'll go down when the trunk closes. It goes down on it. You don't want it flat against the metal because you really won't get a good seal. So I hope you were able to see that and it makes sense. So how are we going to do this? Well, before it's over, I'll be cleaning out this trunk quite a bit because I'm going to have to get up in there and sit down while I put the gasket up along there. I'm not going to try to reach over the top of the trunk lid. It'll wind up getting screwed up. And I'm also going to use 3M black gasket adhesive. Don't use gasket maker, and don't use silicone. Yeah, it'll work, but what you need is the gasket adhesive, okay? And try to get the stuff by 3M. Get the black. It's black. And there's some guys out there, they'll take I've seen them take a tool like this with a large tube of silicone, and then they'll squirt that stuff all the way around and put their gasket in. Yes, it'll work, but it's not the right way to do it, not the right way. And I'm going to show you why. Take a look at the top of this thing. We get the top off of this thing. Wait till you see how big it is. Okay, you see how tiny that is, that tip? There's a reason for that. There's a reason for it. I get this stuff off of there. Come on, get off of there, you. Well, I'm going to have to clean it up a little bit. But anyway, there's a reason for it being so tiny. That's because you don't need to use a whole lot. Now, all I'm going to do is put a thin bead of this stuff along the bottom. It'll be down in this area here where the gasket fits. I'm not going to be smearing it all over the place. Just try to get some of it down in there and smooth it out. And I'm only going to be doing about 6 or 8 inches at a time. Now we're going to start from right here where I put a pencil line, right in the center of this thing right here. That's where we'll start. I'll probably go in this direction. Some people like to go in this direction. I prefer this one because and I'm only going to come out to about here. Then the next part will be about to here. I'm going to take my time. Put a very thin bead of that black stuff in the bottom. Put a very thin bead on the area of the gasket that fits in the bottom. Then we let it sit for a while until it gets tacky. And it doesn't take a lot. As a matter of fact, less is more when it comes to this kind of setup, this foam rubber type gasket. And once it becomes tacky, then I'll take my cement again, and I'll put a little touch here, a little touch here, a little touch here, a little touch here, however long I put the glue. And of course the distance I cover here will be the same distance I cover here, approximately. And then put just a little tiny bead all the way down, and then take it and just put it down in there and press it in place, and it'll stick like glue. Okay. I made a pencil mark starting right here like I showed you, and I made another one right there. Okay, and then I took the foam rubber seal and I laid it across there. I made a pencil mark on it also, which will be the same distance. Now I'll go ahead and take some of that glue, put it along there. I'll take some, put it along here. I'll probably use my finger to spread this out right here. And along here I might go ahead and use a putty knife I have and just kind of spread it. I don't know, I may wind up using my finger too. It doesn't matter. Then we'll go ahead and just let it dry. Then do our dabbing on one piece. You don't need to do it on both. Get it in the camera here. Then we'll just flip it over and put the first piece in. Then I think I'm going to go in the house for a while, see if the wind's going to die down a little bit more. Alright, that's the first batch. Now I'm just giving it a little bit of a rub here. That's all I need. Doesn't take much. Remember, less is more when it comes to this stuff. Just like that. And we're going to do the same thing along this rubber thing all the way down. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, but I'm only going to do this one piece to show you what I'm talking about. All the way down. It's almost like a contact cement actually is what this stuff is, okay? Try to get it down in there as much as I can. Let me go ahead and get my both hands on that. Alright, she's pretty tacky, so now I'm just going to put a little glob here, a little glob there, a little glob there, a little glob there, a little glob there, and a little glob there. Alright, now I'm just going to roll it over and press it in place. Well, there she is, just that little part. I've got it glued in real good. It's not going to go anywhere. It takes about 24 hours for it to completely dry. And the best part, but see, you got that lip up there. That's the important thing, because it will now make contact with the trunk lid when it comes down. It won't be so flat that it won't make contact. Now it'll make contact, and the trunk lid will pull it down just like that. It'll give you a nice watertight seal all the way around. Now this does take time. You can't be, if you're in a big hurry, don't start it. Wait until you have enough time to get the job done right. Just small sections at a time. Work your way around. Alright, we made some good progress. We have rounded the two far corners, and we're coming into the home stretch right here. So all I have left to do is this little bit, and then I'll lop it off. They always give you about a foot or so extra. And then I'll lop it off. I've already got it marked. Be real careful lopping this off. You don't want it to have a big old gap there. And but if you do have a gap, it's not that big of a problem. You can fill it in with the gasket adhesive, but try not to do that. All done. That's the best I could do. I just took my time, went a few inches at a time all the way around, nice and slow. Probably the hardest part of doing this is doing the curves. The curved areas is the most difficult. Ask anyone who's done it. You're not going to get the curves perfect unless you're a professional, which I am not. But they turned out pretty good. We're going to have a nice tight water seal, I think. The next thing is this little baby right here. I got to get this thing done. This is a separate. This thing here separates the body of the car from the very lip here of the trunk. Whereas the water seal, the weather stripping, does this part right here. Okay, there's this part. Let me get a little clarity here. Come on now. There we go. There's this part, then there's this part. So this will all come. This piece here will all come up. It's It's glued down. It's also held in by these clips, I think. I may not have to glue it, but you got to order these clips to go with it. These are rusty, so I'll be getting new those. But believe it or not, that one little tiny strip right there costs almost as much as that entire weather strip did around the trunk. Isn't that amazing? Okay, that's it for now. Oh yeah, one more thing. Be careful with this. Now this is all the glue I used on the entire thing. Not very much. Not even half of it. Doesn't take a whole lot. Less is more. Is what I keep telling you. And be careful. You don't want to get too much of this crap. You're going to get some of it on your hands. I mean, just handling the top and handling the tube. Try not to get too much. If you do, get it off of there. Try to use, your nitrate gloves, that sort of thing. But you're going to get some. I've got some. I've got to go in the house and get off from where I got it on my fingers, and we'll get it off of there. Alright, before shutting down for today and ending this video, I have here a long wire with an LED, a set of LED lights on the end. I have them turned off right now. I'll brighten them up for you. Got a little thing here. Now you can buy one of these setups down at Harbor Freight. There it is, real bright. You can buy one of these setups down at Harbor Freight for like 50-60 bucks with a very small screen, and has a long wire, but the wire is only about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet long, and whereas this one is almost 20 feet long, and it doesn't cost no 60 bucks. It only costs $8.90. And I picked it up on eBay, and it's used with an Android phone. What you're supposed to do is hook it into your Android phone, record what you're going to record, and then send it in via a program link they give you on the internet in order to save it on your computer and all this other crap. No. If you work at it, you can figure out how to do it in your laptop without using any Android phone, or all you do is load the software in, go to your camera and your options, and it'll give you a play option. You go ahead and play it, and we can go ahead and as you can see, I can shine this around here. It's kind of hard to see in the daylight here, but everything's shining on it, but it just shines everywhere. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to run this down our gas tank, and we're going to find out if we have any rust in there. Hopefully it'll work. If not, I'm only out $8.90, which also gives me an opportunity to show you that these rubber things that I wanted, that I thought I might have had, that I did have, they are in there, and they hold the door open perfectly, which means I can get rid of this old piece of hard crap. Don't need it anymore. All right, let me get the top off the gas tank, start running this wire down in there. Well, so far we've been having no luck. The reason being is each time I run the cable down into the gas tank, it gets covered up with dirt, and I can't get a camera, and nothing will show up on our laptop screen. I'm going to keep trying. This may be a totally futile effort, but that's okay. I'd rather be out $8.90 than 65 or 60 or whatever. Alright, we have a problem. Once the camera gets down in there, it has a tendency to coil up on itself like this, whatever it hits. So you can't really control it. So what we need to do is get it on the end of something that's stiff, and I have a little metal pipe. I'm going to take this electrical tape, I'm going to tape it to the end of the pipe, then we're going to run the pipe down in there, see if that doesn't help. I'll try anything once. One other thing, the edge of the camera where the wire goes into it was catching on the filler tube. Once it went down in there, trying to get it back out wasn't so easy. So let's go ahead and see if this will do the job. I'll probably have to put a little more tape on the wire down at the end down here also. Well, that method worked a little bit, but what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to dangle this camera off the end of this pipe so it can get down in there and look at the very bottom of the tank. Right now it's being held up too high, and we're not getting a fairly clear picture of the bottom. We're not going to get much, but I think we can get a little better than what we've been getting. Well, this is what we get whenever we stick our camera down into the tank. Let me lower the brightness of the camera down a little bit. We're just not getting a whole lot, and let me show you why. As you can see, the end of the camera and the end of the pipe is covered with dirt and rust. The whole camera is just clogged up with dirt. Oh well, that was a good idea had it worked, but it can't work when it's dealing with mud and rust. So guess what? The old gas tank's going to have to come down. No doubt about it now. Well, you know, on second thought, there is an option that I have. I could take the plug out of the bottom of the tank and the bottom of the car, and you'll notice there's no gasoline on here at all. It's just dirt and rust. So all the gas is gone from the bottom of the tank. I could take a water hose, and jam it down all the way to the bottom, pull the plug underneath the bottom of the tank, and then just let it flush out with water. And then I don't know, maybe I could take an air hose later after that and blow the water out of the bottom. I don't know. Just an idea. You guys kick that around. Tell me what you think about it. Anyway, that's it for now. Until next time, this is John. Well, I almost forgot. Our tubes are now all in for the Jukebox we've been working on. For those of you who follow my videos, you know we're piddling around with 3 items actually: a Jukebox, the Thunderbird, and a pinball machine. And the Jukebox is the primary project. But you know, since I messed up the tubes, I've been waiting for the tube order to come in. It finally arrived from Bob Dobush at findatube.com. And they're here. Today is Friday. Monday, we're going to be back on the amplifier. I'm going to start filming and connecting things up and getting them. Hopefully we can get this amplifier fixed so we can take the rest of the Jukebox and get it back in the box, and you know, 1,000 other things that need to be done as well. And the last item is a friend of mine gave me a 1966 Thunderbird completely disassembled. It's all parts, and he said, "Here, it's yours." So, you know, in addition to what we're doing here, I went, of course, accepted it, you know, gratefully, and we're going to go ahead and put all those parts together. Here it is right here. An AMT 1966 T-Bird model, to include the black paint for the top and the white for the bottom, and 2 tubes of glue. And the feller that did that is Ron C., our good buddy down in Florida. So what we're going to do, I appreciated this. This was so neat when I got it. It reminded me of when I was a kid and I used to put together model cars. Man, did I put together model cars and model airplanes. Of course, back in those days, they were only 50 cents. Some of them, you know, you get them, most of them are 99 cents or 50 cents. Some of them I was even able to pick up for 30 cents if they didn't sell on the shelves, and people just get rid of them. Anyway, very nice, very cool gift. I appreciated that a whole lot. So you all know what that means. Shout out to Ron C.